Horse wouldn't know how to misbehave. It can't happen. Misbehaving requires a moral standard of knowing what's right and what's wrong, and they just don't. The horse won't take care of your objectives. He'll take care of his. Hi everybody, I'm going to throw a big word out there during this video, and it's a word that we probably need to understand, particularly in the 21st century, because it's almost become a bit of a disease, and we probably should be taking care of it, at least identifying it and making sure that it doesn't cause things to get worse for horses. And that disease has a name, and it's called anthropomorphism. And what it means is humans have a tendency to give human brains, human values, human reasoning abilities, human ideas to animals, and think that then those animals are probably like us. They have similar objectives, similar thought processes, and similar learning processes. And generally it's not the case. Now, when it comes to horses, anthropomorphism can lead us into some pretty dangerous territory. It's not helpful at the best, and it's dangerous at the worst. So we'll just have a little look at the sort of things that happens when anthropomorphism gets into the situation. Now, it's been identified with scientific studies and things that it is something that's getting a little bit worse. There was one study that was made between 1995 and 2001 that showed a 28% increase in an American vet hospital, a 28% increase in the number of people referring them to themselves as the animal's parent. So saying to your dog, "Hi little doggy, daddy's home. Hello," or your cat, "Have you been missing mummy while she hasn't been here?" And now that doesn't really matter, does it? But it is a sign that things are coming a little bit undone. And as social interactions become a little bit more complicated for humans, and as the social fabric kind of decays a little bit and family situations fall apart, there is a corresponding, almost proportional element where anthropomorphism clicks in. So if we look at some of the statistics on anthropomorphism, we'll find that women are more anthropomorphic than men, but that those without children at home are more anthropomorphic than those that do have their children at home. Those without university degrees are more anthropomorphic than those that do have university degrees. And those in difficult social situations or difficult marital situations are more anthropomorphic than those in a stable family and social situations, much more. So what's that mean? What do those studies show us? They show us that when the human gets into trouble with his human-human relationships, he tries to fill in the empty spaces with his human-animal relationships, and that brings about this problem. Now, is it bad? Well, it depends what we do with it. Now, some things, such as obesity in horses in England, have become a real problem. It rains a lot, there's lots of grass, and people like to be really nice to their horses, so they give them lots and lots to eat, and then they cause them to get obese and get founder and all sorts of health problems. They don't like their horses to get cold, so they put lots of rugs on them. Now, we need to understand the horse is a horse, of course. So, you know, how does the temperature, the temperature control of the horse, how does that work? Is the horse able to control his temperature when it's like 10 degrees? Is he feeling cold? No, that clicks in at about 5 degrees. From 5 to 25, he's perfectly comfortable and doesn't use a great deal of energy either keeping himself warm or cool. Once the temperature gets over 25, now he's getting into a little bit more complicated territory. So like here in France at the moment, there's a heat wave on. So we're making sure that we've got the horses where they can keep their body temperature down. Shade, cover, shelter, fans in the barns, all sorts of things to make sure that we're keeping the animals comfortable. Now, in winter, sometimes you might be cold, but that doesn't mean that your horse is cold. Just because you're cold doesn't mean the horse is cold. And so sometimes people tend to have these anthropomorphic things where there was a funny cartoon thing on Facebook recently, and there was a horse with a big thick rug on, and he was pretty hot in there, and another horse with hair said to the horse, "Well, why have you got all those rugs on?" He said, "Because my owner's cold." And that tends to happen a fair bit. I'm cold, so I'll go and stick some extra rugs on my horse. Now, he's probably not cold, at least if it's not getting under 5, and if he's grown his winter coat, he's not going to be cold. Now, I know that there's all kind of excuses and things like, oh yes, but he's clipped and this and that. Well, sure, but just make sure that you're not actually heating the horse up and making him more uncomfortable by rugging them, more uncomfortable by overfeeding them. And also, I suppose anthropomorphism could be partially responsible for ideas such as my horse eats 3 meals a day. Humans eat 3 meals a day. Horses don't eat 3 meals a day. Anthropomorphism could be partially responsible for the fact that it's warm outside, it's cold outside. I'll bring my horse in and stick him in a stable so that he can't move and heat his own body up, so that he's even more uncomfortable than he was when he was outside. Horses don't eat breakfast, dinner, and lunch. They eat 16 to 18 hours a day. They don't eat cereal. Like, they eat fiber, they eat grass. And I know to a lot of people listening to this, they'll say, well, we know that. Well, it seems that people don't, because horses are eating things that they wouldn't normally eat. Horses are living in stables where they can't move their bodies, which is really not made for a horse. We've already identified in other videos, horses need 3 things. They need fiber, they need to eat 16, 18 hours a day, they need social interaction, which is just imperative to the well-being of the horse. It's a social animal. It's not an animal that can live comfortably on its own. So they need fiber, social interaction, and movement. They need to be able to move. So if you're sticking the horse in a box and he's not getting social interaction and he's getting 3 meals a day of cereal, we're really not taking care of what the horse is and what the horse needs. And a lot of that, people will justify that with some anthropomorphic explanation, saying, well, when I'm cold, I go inside and I eat 3 meals a day, but you're not a horse. You have to respect the horse for what he is. And anthropomorphism can lead to other problems as well. Now, sometimes people might love the horse and want the horse to love them back, as if the horse has some role in fulfilling your objectives. Well, he doesn't. The horse owes the human nothing. The horse does not have to fill in the objectives of the human. The horse doesn't want to win. And there are many other situations where the human's objectives and the horse objectives aren't the same. So in no case, does the horse, as I said, the horse doesn't owe you anything. He doesn't have to, people say, oh yes, but I pay for his livery and I pay for his food and I pay for his rugs and that. At least he could give me this. Horses don't owe humans anything. And instead of maybe asking the horse to take care of your needs, maybe you need to look at the horse a little differently and take care of his needs. The basic needs: is he getting social interaction? Is he getting fiber? And is he getting movement? And apart from that, other needs, such as, if I was going to pick up a horse's foot and he started trying to get his foot away or resisting or something like that, and the horse stopped resisting, what should I do? Should I take advantage of the situation by trying to put the shoe on, or should I put the foot back down because the horse trialed a good response? If all learning is made by trial and error, when the horse trials a good response, should he not profit from that? And these are the sort of things that go wrong, is that people think, oh, he stopped moving, so now I can get my objective. Well, you don't get to get your objective. You get to fill the horse's objectives, and then in the second round, you can have yours. So the horse learns that when I stop resisting, I get comfortable, and that way I want to worm my horse. He's moving his head around. He's not letting me do it. He stops moving his head. That's not the time to put the paste in. That's the time to let go of everything and say, thank you very much. When you do that, you get comfortable, and you can worm him later. But just make sure you're at least getting, because if he stops moving his head and now you punish what he just trialed, and if I stop defending, if I stop trying to get my head, if I stop resisting, what happens? Oh, if you stop resisting, I fill your mouth with really nice, nasty tasting stuff. So the horse says, well, that didn't work, won't do that again. And people create their own problems, and they don't know they're creating them. A lot of people will come to us and say, the problem with my horse is that he rears up. Now, you probably already understood that that's not the problem of the horse, that's the horse's solution. The horse found that there was inescapable pressure in his mouth, on his sides. He wasn't able to remove the pressure. He tried rearing up, the pressure went away, and now he's learnt to rear up, and people will get hurt and horses will get thrown away and things will go wrong, all because people are teaching horses to do the things they don't want them to do. A great horse trainer who would prefer, I should imagine, to be remembered as a horseman, once said to me, horses spend a lot of time learning things they really don't know, they really don't need to learn. And that couldn't be true. Horses spend a lot of time learning things they really don't need to learn. And that's not because the horses are trying to get it wrong. That's because humans don't fully understand the horse. So probably the thing that needs to happen in the 21st century is we need to get a clearer understanding of how horses learn things and how to fill in the horse's objectives so that humans can get their objectives. So that would require a little bit of different thinking. And that's not the only problem with anthropomorphism, is that people get things wrong and think that the horse should understand what's required of him. Often I get people with horses, that's not what I want, as if the horse should have known what the rider wants. The horse has no responsibility. The horse has no idea what you want. The horse has not got some amazing thought detection process where he can read the human mind. Otherwise, breaking in the horse would suddenly become a whole different process, wouldn't it? We'd sit outside the round pen on little mats and chant a mantra, and he'd break himself in, and then we'd go and jump on his back. We'd just visualize it and tell him. Now, that's not likely to happen, at least not very quickly. So if horses can't read the human mind, how in the world would the horse know what the human wants? And sometimes the human thinks, well, if I'm opening this rein out here, the horse should just know that that means turn left. Now, anyone that's started quite a few horses would know that stop and go and turn aren't inbuilt. They're not built into the horse. The horse doesn't know. If you get on a horse and put the aids, the button to go forward, so push my belt buckle forward, squeeze my legs, very few horses on the first ride actually go forward. And this has been scientifically tested as well on some horses in Holland, about 50-odd horses. 30-odd horses just looked back at the rider's legs. Another 5 or 6 walked backwards. Some reacted a little bit more violently and threw the person off. And about 6 horses walked forward. So that gives you about a 12% chance that the horse knows what's required of him when you use the accepted equestrian aids. So that means that all these responses that the horses are learning, they're conditioned. And if they're well conditioned, the horse will learn the good response. Not that the horse knows the difference between good and bad and correct and incorrect. And that's probably the worst form of anthropomorphism that could exist, is that people think that horses could make mistakes, that they try to be wrong, that they're naughty. I've even seen that. I've read that in brilliant writers have written some brilliant books. And reading a brilliant writer's brilliant book, and it's written, and if the horse is naughty, or cantankerous, one should do this and one should do that. The horse couldn't be naughty, wouldn't even know how to be naughty. But these things happen, and people think, well, when the horse is misbehaving, horse wouldn't know how to misbehave. It can't happen. Misbehaving requires a moral standard of knowing what's right and what's wrong, and they just don't. The horse won't take care of your objectives. He'll take care of his. And this is why I'm doing this video, is because it's very, very important. Now, I know that people won't agree, and they'll say, oh, my horse tries to be wrong. But he couldn't. He doesn't know how it is. He doesn't have the brain parts that make it possible. Moral understanding, knowing what's right and what's wrong and what's good and what's bad, requires brain parts known as a prefrontal cortex, and the horse doesn't have them. And if you'd really like one day to become a great horseman, you'll probably need to get that aspect of understanding the horse down pretty well understood in order to not take things personally. I don't know any great horseman that takes things personally from the horse. When the horse does something wrong, I don't know any great horseman that says, now he's getting it wrong, so I'll make him do this and I'll make him do that. You can't take things personally. He's not trying to be wrong. He wouldn't know how to be. Even the notion of respect, I would tend to question it. And I think, if you want to go somewhere with horses, you can question everything you hear and everything you know. You can always debate with yourself and say, well, and what if it isn't? And what if that's not true? What if that's not the case? Is the horse capable of bad intention? No, he's not. How can he be disrespectful? Now, there's a good question. A great doctor once asked me that question. He said, I enjoyed your demonstration. I just don't know When you're talking about respect, I'm not sure what it means, because is the horse capable of bad intention? Now, I was pretty proud of myself. I knew that no, the horse wouldn't know how to be wrong. So he said, okay, so how can he be disrespectful? And I said, well, you know, he pushes on you, marches, walks on your feet and all that sort of thing. And he said, yeah, but is he disrespectful, or is he poorly educated? And I said, yeah, okay, you know, he's poorly educated. Okay, now if he's disrespectful, that's the horse's fault. But if he's poorly educated, whose fault's that? And there was a good question. So often people will refer to horses being disrespectful, even their own horses. Oh, this horse is a bit disrespectful. What they actually mean is, my horse is poorly educated. I've educated the horse poorly, and now I'm having to endure the result of what I've created. But it's not the horse that's being disrespectful. He doesn't know those notions. He might know them with his mother or something, but we tend with horses to get a little bit anthropomorphic and start pretending then, well, if he's not a human, then maybe I'm a horse. We'll go that way, shall we? And say, well, I'm part of the horse's herd. No, you're not. You're not a horse, and the horse will not interpret the human as a horse. Sorry to tell you, but you don't look anything like a horse. You walk upright, and you don't have protruding ears, and you're not on 4 feet. So the horse is unlikely to look at the human and say, oh, there's another horse. Maybe he's the alpha. Maybe he's the leader. He's just looking at a human, and the human will condition responses for better or for worse. And if he's clear about what he's doing, it'll be for better. If he doesn't know what he's doing, it'll be for worse. But the horse will not think that the human is a horse. And that's important to understand, because a lot of the horse-human relationships, we add a little anthropomorphism in there and say, well, maybe the human can mimic horse social interactions. Well, no, you can't be a horse. The horse won't interpret you as one. And if he does while you're on the ground, what in the world does he think when you get on his back? Now, there's a nice little subject for some imagination. So the horse, we can imagine what we call intraspecies hierarchy, which means within the horses, there's a hierarchy. Within a group of dogs, there's a hierarchy. But what you can't have is interspecies hierarchies. They don't really exist. And scientifically, we're getting more and more understanding of the fact that these are just anthropomorphic beliefs. As I said, science is about facts, and oftentimes when we don't have the science to fill in the empty spaces, we fill them in with beliefs. And a lot of belief systems have been put into place. When we didn't know how the world was created or where we all came from, we filled it all in with beliefs, and a lot of people became very strong believers. And people are willing to die for what they believe in. It touches the heart. It doesn't touch the brain. It touches the heart. It touches the emotions, and that's powerful territory. So you're willing to die for what you believe in. Not necessarily, no one's dying for science, but they might die for beliefs. And that's pretty dangerous territory when it comes to being relatively clear with the horse. If we're running off belief systems, we might be getting things wrong. We might be misinterpreting certain situations. You might think the horse is being disrespectful and therefore needs to be punished. And maybe you think that the horse could understand punishment, because if he's punished, he'll know that what he did was naughty, and therefore he'll try another response next time. But can the horse really analyze punishment? Can the horse really say, I was punished there because I did that wrong, because I know what wrong is, and next time I'll do something right so as to avoid being wrong? Well, that would require an enormous brain, prefrontal cortex with reasoning abilities, rather elaborate. Now, can the horse do that? No. Is that anthropomorphic? Yes. And could you cause the horse to go through a pretty nasty moment of not understanding anything, a lot of confusion, and making very strong adversive or disagreeable associations with the situation because he was misunderstood? Yes. The only thing the horse might learn is humans are not good, because he was punished for doing something that was wrong. But of course the horse wouldn't know what wrong is, would he? So some of these things might be a little bit hard to accept, but probably as we move towards the 21st century, it would be prime time to start having a little think about, okay, what's actually going on? Am I living in a belief system, or would I be better to maybe turn towards something more scientific and try and understand what's really going on? Belief systems, humanity has proved it for years, a pretty dangerous territory. So maybe get a little bit more scientific and say, okay, is the horse capable of being wrong? Is he capable of being right? Does he owe me something? Should he be trying to do what I want? Does he know what I want? And how could I get the horse to be a little bit more obedient? Could he even be disobedient? And why do we use, even at the highest levels of equestrian federations, words such as disobedience if it couldn't even exist? So a lot of things to think about there. Anthropomorphism can lead to a lot of problems. It can lead to punishment. It can also lead to people loving their horses so much and treating them like replacement children and saying, well, I'd like him to live closer to me, and I'd like to give him lots and lots of cuddles. The horses like lots of human cuddles. And I like to kiss him on the nose. The horses like human kisses on the nose. And I like to pat him a lot, because that's what I watch people do, and they pat their horses when they love them. Do horses like being patted, or would they rather just you gave them a little scratch? And are we reading the horse? Are we taking care of his needs, or are we taking care of our own needs? And even when we bought the horse, were we taking care of our needs? Probably. But now we need to take care of the horse's needs. It's a big obligation. So there's quite a bit to think about. Now, I've taken a few notes here about anthropomorphism. I'll stick my eyes on and just make sure I haven't forgotten anything. So I've talked about bad behavior and the horse knowing what's expected of him. And probably I talked a little bit about the notions of respect and leader, and how interspecies hierarchies are becoming rather scientifically unacceptable. One of the other things I thought I'd talk about is things such as, there are things that work. For example, you put the horse in a round pen. When the horse is moving away from you, you cause the horse to be uncomfortable. When the horse is looking towards you, you remove all stimulus. And pretty soon the horse will start following the human, because he understands what removes uncomfortable situations and what obtains comfortable situations. And no horse wants to be uncomfortable, does he? So he'd soon learn to follow the human. And we could fill that description, we could fill that story up with lots of stories, and we could say, okay, so what's happening is we're doing like in the horses, and we push the batty horse away, and when he faces up, we take the pressure away, and he follows me because he thinks I'm a horse and I'm another, and I do this movement and that movement. Or you could just say, you know what, in the end, it's just negative reinforcement. It's just uncomfortable, just causing what you don't want to be uncomfortable and causing what you do want to be comfortable. And maybe it's a lot more basic than pretending that it's a horse-horse relationship. And I think it's important to understand that there's nothing magic. It's just negative reinforcement, removing pressure at the right time. And it could probably be any pressure. It wouldn't have to be a certain movement or things like that. So think a little bit about what's actually going on. Am I making a Disneyland film around what's happening, or could it be scientifically explained? And I think science has a big role to play in the future, and it has quite a job ahead of it, because there's a lot of belief systems, a lot of anthropomorphism, and a lot of bad interpretations of different situations that cause things to get worse. So science could play a really, really big role. It surely will play a vital role in the way that we go forward with horses in our horse-human relationships in the future. Not everyone's going to want it, because belief systems, they touch your heart. And science is quite an intellectual thing, and it touches the brain. And the human will always do things more by how he feels than by how he thinks. Now, science would always touch more how we think than how we feel, but maybe we could follow our hearts without forgetting our brains and go forward in our horse-human relationships in an ethical, correct, and maybe scientifically proven manner, so as to avoid things coming wrong or bad interpretations of different situations. Anyway, plenty to think about. Are you anthropomorphic in the way we interact with our horses? Are we taking things personally? Are we trying to get the horse to do things that we want without taking care of what he needs? Lots of things to think about, worth doing so, and I'll see you again in a video very soon.